In over 100 separate incidents, toddlers were kicked, yanked, and pushed by their own caretaker at a Texas daycare. And now, Catherine Guzieska, the woman at the center of this horrifying case, has finally been sentenced. What did the judge decide? What does it mean for these families? We're going to break it all down with Russell Button, a trial attorney and child injury expert, someone who knows cases like this inside and out. Russell Button, thanks so much for taking the time. Good to see you. I want to move into what happened once this case got into the courtroom, because that's when things escalated quickly. Catherine Guzieska ultimately entered a guilty plea to multiple counts of injury to a child. There is a lot to unpack when a defendant is charged with child abuse, decides to plead guilty rather than go to trial. So from your perspective, why would she do this? Why would a defendant in a case like this choose to plead guilty instead of letting a jury decide?
Because they know that they're going to be found guilty, plain and simple. You just don't do this to kids.
So in the end, Catherine Guzieska, after all of that, was sentenced to 10 years in prison, with the judge ruling that her sentences for each charge would be served concurrently. Some might say, well, why weren't some of them stacked on one after the other? You know, why did it serve the sentences at the same time? Why not consecutively? Thoughts?
We feel very strongly, just like the judge here, that giving the maximum sentence is the best case scenario here. But with regard to concurrent versus consecutively, meaning serving them all at one time or serving them one after another, that is what the law allows, that they can be served concurrently. Is 10 years a long time? For her, she might say that. To the parents who had their children abused, I don't know that they would.
How could an outcome in the criminal context like this, how does that influence the family or the families if they pursue claims for damages?
What has to be done by these daycares, and where they fail and where the civil arena kicks in, is when the system doesn't protect the children. And when you don't follow the safety systems that these daycares have, yes, we have minimum standards put out there by the state, but they're just that. They're just minimums. As we gather all the evidence from every agency in all of our daycare and child injury cases, anybody that talked to somebody, reviewed a document, sent an email, talked to a witness, we get names of former parents and former employees. We interview everybody. And so these criminal things really help, because they'll hold on to that evidence until there is a guilty plea or a conviction. Then we're able to get that information. And so that's how it really helps in the civil cases. We get to use these other investigations plus our own independent one to really bring forth and get out there what failed in that system. Why was this even allowed to happen? Because it never should have.